curious, slightly ominous. The banana sitting on your kitchen counter right now is the cheapest, most common fruit in the grocery store. It is also the very reason governments have fallen, corporate empires were built, and military coups were funded. And today, it is facing a disease that could wipe it off the face of the earth. Look at that perfectly yellow, uniform piece of fruit. To produce that exact shape and flavor for a few cents a pound, you have to build an agricultural machine of staggering scale. Millions of acres of identical plants, stretching as far as the eye can see. This extreme vulnerability and the violent history that kept this production machine running are not accidents. They are the direct result of a choice human engineers made 10,000 years ago. If you walked through the dense tropical forests of Papua New Guinea 10 millennia ago, you would not recognize the original wild banana. It was small, its flesh was bitter, and it was packed with rock-hard black seeds the size of peppercorns. Early farmers saw potential. Through generations of careful selective breeding, they cultivated mutant varieties. They intentionally chose the plants that yielded more sweet flesh and fewer hard seeds, eventually creating a completely seedless fruit. This diagram shows the biological cost of that choice. A fruit with no seeds cannot reproduce on its own. To grow a new plant, farmers had to clone the old one, severing a chunk of the root system, called a corm, and replanting it in fresh soil to sprout an exact biological copy. From that moment forward, every single seedless banana plant cultivated by humans was copied from another. That means an entire plantation is entirely uniform, sharing the exact same DNA sequence without a single genetic variation to protect it. The biological quirk that made the fruit soft and edible erased all natural genetic diversity, burying a time bomb in the global food system. By the late 19th century, American entrepreneurs realized how to exploit this genetic uniformity. Because the popular Gros Michel banana was a clone, it grew predictably and shipped reliably. This allowed operators to scale production to factory-like levels, stacking immense harvests along new rail lines cut into the Central American jungle. This efficiency generated massive wealth. In 1899, competing operations merged to form the United Fruit Company. They used their capital to build a massive logistical network, including an armada of refrigerated steamships known as the Great White Fleet, granting them near total control over global shipping routes. The corporation grew so powerful, it operated as a parallel government across Central America. They owned the railroads, the telegraph lines, and the ports, often holding more authority than elected officials. This level of corporate domination over local politics is where the term banana republic originates. Maintaining this cheap, high-volume production required brutal labor practices. When workers at a Colombian plantation went on strike in 1928, demanding basic rights and cash payment instead of company tokens, the military responded with machine guns. The exact death toll of the banana massacre is unknown, but union leaders estimated nearly 2,000 people were killed. The violence extended to sovereign governments. In 1954, Guatemalan President Jacobo Arbenz attempted to redistribute unused land owned by United Fruit to landless farmers. In response, the company funded a massive PR campaign, labeling Arbenz a communist threat, pressuring the CIA to launch a military coup that overthrew his democratically elected government.
A multinational empire, fully capable of toppling governments and slaughtering workers, was built entirely on the biological stability of a single cloned piece of fruit. In the early 1900s, a soil fungus called Fusarium oxysporum, informally known as Panama disease, appeared in plantations. The fungus infiltrates the roots and blocks the plant's vascular system, starving it of water and nutrients until it wilts from the inside out. This animation illustrates the fatal weakness of a cloned crop. Because every Gros Michel plant shared identical DNA, not a single plant out of millions possessed natural resistance. Once the fungus entered the soil, it encountered zero biological barriers. The disease spread through contaminated soil and water, carried on farm equipment and workers' boots. Companies were forced to abandon entire regions of Central America, clear-cutting fresh jungle to build new farms, only for the fungus to follow them. Despite its vast political leverage and immense capital,
the corporate empire could not fight a microscopic organism. By the 1950s, the Gros Michel was functionally extinct as a commercial crop. Facing financial collapse, the industry desperately needed a replacement. They pivoted to a variety called the Cavendish. It had thinner skin and a blander flavor, but it possessed one critical advantage. It was naturally immune to the specific fungus that killed the Gros Michel. Look at the precise color grading on this ripening chart. The entire supply chain was rebuilt around this new banana. From refrigerated cargo holds at 14 degrees Celsius to distribution centers pumping ethylene gas to trigger uniform ripening, the process was meticulously calibrated. Yet, the industry executed this massive transition by making the exact same biological bet. They planted the Cavendish using the identical cloning method, creating a new, genetically uniform monoculture across billions of plants worldwide. The banana industry actively prioritized short-term economic scale over biological resilience, effectively guaranteeing that whenever a new pathogen evolved to bypass Cavendish immunity, the cycle would repeat. That pathogen has arrived. It is a mutated strain of the fungus known as tropical race 4, or TR4. And unlike the original Panama disease, TR4 specifically targets and kills the Cavendish. This math tracks TR4's progression. It was identified in Taiwan in 1990. Over the next 2 decades, it jumped continents, moving through Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Finally, in 2019, it breached the heart of the Latin American export market, prompting national emergencies. For Western supermarkets, this means expensive or missing produce. But for millions of people in developing nations across East Africa and Southeast Asia, the banana is a daily calorie staple. A collapse of this crop is a slow-motion humanitarian crisis. Scientists are attempting to save the fruit through complex crossbreeding with wild species and genetically modifying Cavendish plants. But because commercial bananas are sterile, the breeding is painfully slow, and genetically modified crops face intense regulatory hurdles and public resistance before they can reach global markets. Science may eventually engineer a replacement for the Cavendish, but the core problem remains unsolved. Until the global food system stops demanding that biology perform like an identical factory assembly line, the food sitting on our counters will remain on the brink of collapse. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden stories behind this everyday object, hit the like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what everyday item we should investigate next.